Let me ask you something. When was the last time you said something in anger that you would give almost anything to take back?
And here is the harder question. How long did you let it sit there before you tried to put it right?
That is exactly where we are going today. Last week, we spoke about anxiety and examined 4 key verses around the subject, which were Psalm 55, verse 22, where we learned that we can cast our burden on the Lord and He will sustain us. John 14, verse 1, where Jesus tells us not to let our heart be troubled. Isaiah 41, verse 13, where God says that He Himself holds our right hand. And Psalm 23, verse 4, where we learned that even in the darkest valley, we are never walking it alone. In today's episode, we will be discussing anger by also exploring 4 key verses in the Bible. Ephesians 4, verse 26, James 1, verses 19 to 20, Proverbs 15, verse 1, and Proverbs 29, verse 11. We are going to break down each of these passages in detail, and I will offer practical ways you can apply them in your everyday life. By the end, you will be able to go and confidently study these verses for yourself without feeling intimidated. Welcome to Bible Studies with Marv Osum, and today's episode is called The Fire You Were Given to Handle.
If this is your first time joining us, welcome. I am so glad you are here. You do not need to have your temper sorted out before you sit with us, and you do not need a clean record. All you need is an open heart and a few honest minutes. Go ahead, get comfortable, and let's open the Word together.
So, Jay, we have spent 2 episodes on anxiety, and anxiety is an emotion most people are quite willing to admit to. Anger is different. Nobody wants to be the angry one.
No, they really do not. And I think that is why so many of us handle it badly. We either pretend we are not angry at all, or we let it run the whole show. There does not seem to be much middle ground.
And that is the first thing Scripture corrects. The Bible does not treat anger as a disease to be eradicated. God Himself gets angry. Jesus turned over tables in the temple. Anger is part of how we are wired, and it is often the signal that something we love has been damaged or something we believe is right has been violated.
So the question is never really, should I feel this? The question is, what am I going to do with it now that I feel it?
That is it exactly. And notice how much pressure that takes off you. If the feeling itself were the failure, you would already have failed before you opened your mouth. But Scripture puts the weight somewhere else entirely, on the response, which is the one part you actually hold in your hands.
Which is quite freeing, honestly. You are not being judged for the spark. You are being trusted with what you do next.
Exactly that. Anger is a fire. In a fireplace, it warms a house. Left on the carpet, it burns the house down. The 4 verses we are looking at today are all about where you put the fire. Let's get into it. The first verse we will be exploring is Ephesians 4, verse 26.
Here is what that verse says. Be angry and do not sin. Do not let the sun go down on your wrath.
Now, look at how that verse begins. It does not say, do not be angry. It says, be angry and do not sin. Paul separates 2 things that we usually glue together. There is the emotion, which arrives uninvited, and there is what we choose to build with it, which is entirely ours. Anger itself is not the sin. Letting it fester and turn into something destructive is. And then Paul gives us a deadline, which I find remarkable. Do not let the sun go down on your wrath.
Say more about that deadline, because that is the part that catches me every time.
I want you to slow down on that word wrath. It is not the same as the flash of heat you feel in the moment. Wrath is what anger becomes when you feed it and give it somewhere to live. Anger is weather. Wrath is climate. And Paul knows that anger has a shelf life. Left overnight, it stops being about the thing that happened and starts being about the person who did it. By the morning, you are not upset about the comment. You are building a case. That is why the deadline exists. It is not that God is fussy about bedtimes. It is that God knows what unresolved anger does to a heart while you sleep.
And you can watch it happen in real time in a marriage.
You can. So here is a practical way this can be applied. After a fight with your spouse, You resolve to talk it through before bed rather than going to sleep cold and resentful, letting it harden overnight. It might be an awkward 5 minutes. It might just be, I am still upset, but I love you, and I am not leaving this to rot. Anger that is dealt with quickly stays an incident. Anger that is left to sit becomes an identity.
So this week, ask yourself this. Is there something you are carrying today that you should have settled last night or last week or last year? What would it cost you to close it before the sun goes down?
The second verse we will be exploring is James 1, verses 19 to 20.
Here is what that verse says. So then, my beloved brethren, let every man be swift to hear, slow to speak, slow to wrath. For the wrath of man does not produce the righteousness of God.
What I love about James is that he gives us an order of operations. Swift to hear, slow to speak, slow to wrath. Listen first, speak carefully, and let anger come last, if it comes at all. Most of us run that list backwards. We get angry first, we speak immediately, and we listen only after the damage is done, if we listen at all. And James tells us why the order matters. The wrath of man does not produce the righteousness of God. Reactive rage rarely produces anything good.
That last line is quite a claim, though, because in the moment, anger feels productive. It feels like you are finally standing up for what is right.
It does, and that is the deception. Slow down with me on the word produce. James is talking about harvest, about what actually grows from the seed you plant. Human anger feels like it is producing justice, but look at the fruit it leaves behind. Damaged relationships, words that cannot be recalled, people who now defend themselves instead of hearing you. You may have been completely right and still produced nothing righteous whatsoever. Being right and bearing fruit are not the same harvest.
And notice James does not say never be angry. He says slow. It is a speed instruction, not a ban.
Precisely. He is asking you to put distance between the trigger and the response, because almost everything good happens in that gap. So here is a practical way this can be applied. When a coworker criticizes your work in a meeting, you pause and ask a question to understand before firing back, and often you discover it was not the attack you assumed it was. Listening first costs you 3 seconds. Speaking first can cost you 3 years of a relationship.
So this week, here is a small challenge. The next time you feel that heat rise, ask one genuine question before you say anything else. Just one. And see what it changes.
The third verse we will be exploring is Proverbs 15, verse 1.
Here is what that verse says. A soft answer turns away wrath, but a harsh word stirs up anger.
This is one of those verses that is short enough to memorize in 10 seconds and deep enough to spend a lifetime practicing. Solomon is describing something that operates almost like a law of nature. Your tone can either cool a situation down or pour fuel on it, and the choice is usually yours. Notice, it does not say, a soft answer wins the argument. It says a soft answer turns wrath away, which is to say it changes the direction the whole thing is traveling in.
Which means you have far more power in a heated moment than you think you do.
Far more. Let me slow down on the word soft, because I think it is badly misunderstood. Soft does not mean weak, and it certainly does not mean dishonest. You can say something difficult and true in a gentle voice. In fact, a soft answer usually requires more strength than a sharp one, because you are choosing not to spend the ammunition you are holding. Anyone can match volume. It takes real self-command to lower it while the other person is still shouting.
And I have seen this work in the most unpromising situations.
So here is a practical way this can be applied. A frustrated customer is shouting at you. A calm, lowered voice and a simple, let's sort this out together, will often diffuse them faster than matching their volume ever could. You are not surrendering. You are refusing to hand them a second fire to fight. You cannot always control the temperature someone brings into the room, but you decide entirely what you add to it.
So this week, try this. Pick the one relationship where conversations tend to escalate and commit to being the one who lowers the volume first, not the one who is right first, the one who is soft first.
And the final verse we will be exploring is Proverbs 29, verse 11.
Here is what that verse says. A fool vents all his feelings, but a wise man holds them back.
I want to be careful here because this verse gets misused. It is sometimes read as, good Christians bottle everything up and never say how they feel. That is not what it says, and that reading has done real damage to people. Wisdom is not suppressing emotion forever. It is not dumping every raw feeling the moment it appears. Look at the word all. A fool vents all his feelings, everything, immediately, on whoever is standing nearest.
So the fool is not the person with strong feelings. The fool is the person with no filter and no timing.
That is the distinction, and it matters enormously. The wise man in this verse is not pretending he feels nothing. The Hebrew behind holds them back carries the sense of stilling something, of quietening it, the way you would calm a restless animal rather than kill it. He knows the feeling is real, and he also knows that the first version of it is rarely the truest version. Wisdom is not silence. Wisdom is waiting until you can say the true thing well.
And most of us have a very recent example of getting this wrong.
Most of us have one on our phone. So here is a practical way this can be applied. Before sending that furious message, you save it as a draft and sleep on it. By morning, you almost always rewrite it, or you delete it entirely. And notice what has happened there. You have not lost anything true. You have only lost the version you would have regretted. Delay cost you nothing that was worth keeping.
So this week, here is your challenge. Write the angry message if you need to. Get it all out. Then do not send it for 24 hours and read it again before you do.
So let's bring it all home. Today we looked at 4 verses, and together they paint a clear picture of what anger actually is. Not a sin to be ashamed of, but a fire to be handled with care.
Let's run them back.
From Ephesians 4 verse 26, we learned that anger itself is not the sin. Letting it fester overnight until it hardens into wrath is what turns it into one.
From James 1 verses 19 to 20, we learned that the order matters. Listen first, speak carefully, and let anger come last, because human rage does not grow the fruit God is looking for.
From Proverbs 15 verse 1, we learned that your tone is a choice, and a soft answer can change the direction of a conversation that a harsh word would only have set alight.
And from Proverbs 29 verse 11, we learned that wisdom is not pretending you feel nothing. It is refusing to dump every raw feeling the moment it appears.
Put it all together, and you get this. Anger is not your enemy. Anger, unattended, is. God is not asking you to stop feeling. He is asking you to be quick to deal with it, slow to speak it, gentle in how you carry it, and wise about when you release it. So here is my challenge for you this week. Pick one of these verses, or all 4, reread it, and see what God is communicating to you about your current life circumstance through those verses.
And please do not miss our next episode, as we will be concluding our discussion around anger, exploring more key verses in the Bible around that subject. If this episode encouraged you, do me a favor, share it with one person who needs to hear it, follow the show so you never miss an episode, and leave us a review so more people can find us. It really does help.
This has been Bible Studies with Marv Osum. Go and be slow to anger and quick to make it right. I will see you in the next one.
That is all for today. Thank you so much for spending this time in the Word with us. Take care.